It's about getting out, relaxing, not stressing about anything, and it's a battle between me and the fish and how I can catch them and how many I can catch, and just enjoying being on the water.
What's special about fishing is it's a way for me to get out on the water and just kind of forget about everything that's out there. Being able to catch a fish and just feel the weight of it, doesn't matter how big it is, on the weight on the end of that line. It really excites me, and it's just a way for me to get out there and let loose, just forget about all the stress. It's a big stress relief for me.
Stay tuned to this episode of Purple Pride to learn more about the SFA Bass Team.
Hello, I'm Alyssa Tenorio. On this edition of Purple Pride, we have Jared West from the SFA Bass Team. Thanks for coming in, Jared. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with the Bass Team?
Well, I've been on the team for 2 years. I am over the marketing side of the team. I just deal with sponsors and try to get more sponsors and more publicity for the team through just talking to sponsors, and then also the fishing tournaments that we fish at.
So how did you get started fishing?
I started when I was probably as big enough to hold a rod. My dad was taking me to my grandparents' farm ponds, and I started fishing tournaments since the age of 6.
Okay. Can you give us a little bit of history or maybe about how the team started?
I'm really not sure what year the team started. We do have an alumni that works for the Stephen F. Austin Police Department. He actually was one of the founding members. We just weren't able to nail down a year on that.
For the bass fishing team, what's the average number that the team usually has?
This year we have roughly 20 or so members. Just kind of depends on what's going on in the year, what's going on with school, with tests and homework and things like that. It kind of fluctuates, but we have roughly 20 or 25 this year.
Is that the biggest team y'all have had in a while, or have y'all had bigger teams before?
Last year was about the same. It's pretty consistent.
Okay.
We only graduated 2 guys this year, but we're graduating quite a big class in the next year or so.
Kind of trying to rebuild type thing. Okay, so what are some of the requirements then to be on the team?
Just to come by, you just fill out a form and pay your dues. It's $30 a dues per year or per semester, and once you pay your dues, you're on the team.
So do members have to have any prior fishing skills before coming in, or will y'all teach them what they need to know?
The fishing skills for the team is kind of a wide variety. Everybody has different techniques that they are more inclined to use, and they're better at. Mm-hmm. Guys that don't know anything can come in, learn from different guys, pick up different techniques, and actually figure out what best suits them and different varieties. So no, there's really no prior experience needed, but it does help out.
Okay, so we were talking about the members coming in. Do they have to supply now their own equipment to be part of the team, or do y'all have resources that kind of gives them the equipment they need?
They do need to supply their own team. We do have sponsors that kind of help us with baits and things like that, but as far as rod and reels go, they do need to supply their own things. Boats are not required. There are members of the club that do have their own boats, mm-hmm. but it just kind of depends on how it all works out for them. But no, just the only thing they need to have is rod and reel.
So do the members then who have boats kind of help out with that situation if people don't have boats?
Yeah, we do a draw thing where people that don't have boats are called co-boaters, and then the guys that have the boats are the boaters. We draw for tournaments to see who gets to be a boater, mm-hmm. or the boaters draw for a co-boater, mm-hmm. and then just kind of a luck of a draw who you get to fish with.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at some of the baits used by the members.
First bait I'm going to talk about is a ribbon-tailed worm. It's probably the most basic worm anybody can ever have in a tackle box. You can throw a Texas rig, Carolina rig, or weightless. Texas rig, you have a weight right on top of it. Carolina rig, you have like a little bit of a leader, and you have another weight in front of it. And then weightless, you just have a hook, no weight, you just throw it out there. It works real well all year round. Probably shines the best, probably around the spawn, summertime. This is a 7-inch. They make them as short as 4 inches and as big as 12 inches, and some are even bigger than that. Probably the first bait I ever caught a fish on, and I always have a box on my boat.
First bait I'm going to talk about is the Hags Tornado, the original. This one here is a F6, and it's ribbed, but it's also a solid bait with kind of an air pocket chamber here in the back that helps keep it buoyant, or afloat, I guess you could say. Applications are, I fish it on a Texas rig lizard, or as a Texas rig, and then weightless, or even on a giggy head. It's good for any application, whether fish are cruising, or even when they pull up around docks when it's bright sunshine outside, or they pull up on wood. It's a great bait to flip. I started using these just a couple of years ago, and I can't put them down.
It is the Sammy. It's made by Lucky Craft. I just started throwing this bait this past summer. It's a top water bait. Basically, it moves on top water, it goes side to side. You pull it. You get probably the most aggressive side of the bass when you throw it top water, any top water. It's nothing like early in the morning. There's no wind, lake's calm. Throw one of these out there and you're just walking it, and all of a sudden the bass comes out and explodes on top of it. There's nothing like it. I started throwing a buzz bait when I was little, and I slowly moved to a slower top water lure. I've caught a lot of fish on it. This one's missing an eye already, and by far it's probably the bait. If you want to see the aggressive side of the bass, it's probably the best bait to throw.
Next thing I'm going to talk about is not really a bait, but it's more of like an attractant or a dip. It's JJ's Magic. We were fortunate enough to get him for the SFA team this year. This one is actually the clear, and it's the garlic dip. It doesn't dye, but he does have several colors in the different dyes. I've dipped all my soft plastics as well as Preston. I will not throw a soft plastic without dipping some portion of it into the JJ's Magic. For whatever reason, I can catch more fish and I feel more confident after dipping my bait, no matter what it is, into the dipping sauce than I would if I just pulled it straight out of the package.
All right, Jared, so what's the average number of baits y'all use during any fishing trip?
I really don't know that number. I have 13 rods that I have on the deck at any given moment. You can only use one, but I mean, you just change it throughout the day. It depends on the fish tell you what they want. If you're catching them on one thing, I will not put it down until they absolutely stop biting it. But it just really depends on what we're using. Soft plastics, 1 or 2 fish, and you're changing them out pretty regular.
Okay. And so how does the bass fishing team actually go about getting revenue and support for the team?
We are required by sports clubs to do a fundraiser every year to get a certain amount of funds. However, for certain tournaments, we are allowed a budget. They reimburse us for gas and hotels depending on what the tournament is and if we request that. We don't really get funding. It's just budgets, and then we do the fundraisers again. But we get a lot of sponsors or a lot of deals and baits and things like that to kind of help offset some costs from sponsors.
So what's the farthest, I guess, tournament y'all have been to recently?
Recently, well, I mean, we have guys that go to different tournaments all over. Mm-hmm. Last year, we sent a couple of guys up to Kentucky for the FLW college bass thing, and then I fished this last May on Lake Louisville up in Dallas. Okay. But usually we try to stay right around here, fish area lakes.
Okay, and well, Ryan Watkins and Andrew Upshaw helped a little by winning the National Guard FLW College National Championship not too long ago. What does this win do for the team?
It gives us a lot of publicity. They also won the national championship for the ESPN college bass, and we've been receiving phone calls from still guys in high school that are juniors and sophomores wanting to know about the team. We've gotten calls from several people all over the state, all over the nation. It's really a big publicity, and we're expecting a lot of guys to come in.
So that kind of helps. You said earlier that you have a big class graduating, so
right.
Recruiting-wise is
right.
It's
definitely going to help build up the numbers, and actually we'll have a better shot at having a really good team.
So, okay, for people like me who don't fish, how do you win competitions?
It's a 5-fish limit. State regulations is 14 inches minimum on a black bass. Mm-hmm. And you just cull. You catch your 5, and then you cull through them. Like if you catch one bigger than your smallest one, you'll take that one out, replace it with the largest one. You fish from a certain time in the morning to a certain time in the afternoon, and then you weigh them in, and whoever's got the biggest 5 at the end of the day is the winner.
All right, so what's the biggest fish you've ever seen?
The biggest fish I've ever seen, I've fished tournaments where there's been double-digit fish weighed in. Several tournaments have been 8-9 pounds. That's a big fish. Personally, I've never weighed in one that big, but we're still hoping.
Right. So how do you practice fishing?
You just go out and you get after it. I mean, you put the trolling motor in the water and you just pick up a rod and you start fishing. You just try to figure out what the fish are wanting. You don't want to catch all your fish. You catch a couple, you quit, you move spots, make sure that technique works. You know, certain areas of the lake, you just go out there and it's a long process.
So with the drought affecting our area at least, how has it affected the team's ability to go out and actually practice fishing?
With the drought, it's closed a lot of boat ramps. The lakes are at all-time lows. Lake Knack is 13-foot low right now. It's the lowest it's ever been since they built the lake. There's stumps everywhere. You can't access a lot of areas. It's tough. There's a lot of ramps closed. We can't launch the boats, things like that.
So what are some of the safety measures then that the team takes to make sure that the team is safe while on the lake?
Well, as far as rules goes, as far as for safety, you have to wear your life jacket when the big motor's running, your outboard, and you know, make sure you're connected to the kill switch. So if you are ejected from the boat, the motor kills itself. And then, I mean, we just make sure that everybody is safe on the water. You know, no drugs, no alcohol, things like that.
Right.
Make sure that everybody's alert and awake. Just try to practice just common sense stuff.
So for your practices, what time do y'all usually go out? Is it early in the morning? Is it kind of afternoon?
Practice usually starts, I know some tournaments will start usually it's legal daylight depending on the tournament, and then we can go till dark. Some tournaments have a cutoff day or a cutoff time the day before the tournament, and then usually some lakes are off limits due to tournament scheduling and tournament times. Lakes can be off limits for a week or two before the tournament and only be open for like 2 days before the tournament.
So it just kind of depends on the tournament then?
It does depend on the tournament and also your personal schedule with,
Right.
with classes and things like that. We don't get a lot of time.
So what's the hardest thing about fishing?
Oh man, it's just, I mean, there's really not the hardest thing. I mean, it would be catching the bigger fish, I guess. It's just, you can always catch fish and it's a lot of fun, but quality is what you're really going for, and that can sometimes be the hardest thing to do.
What's your favorite aspect of fishing?
Just being out on the water. I just enjoy it, being out there in nature, just soaking it up. There's nothing out there. I have no reason to answer my cell phone. I have no reason to talk to anybody. I'm just out there. It's a way for me to let loose and just kind of relax.
Do you have a favorite lake that you like to go out to and fish, or does it just depend, I guess?
My favorite lake is actually a lake back home, Lake Lone Star up in East Texas around Longview area. It's a small lake, but the fish are there, the numbers are there, and also the quality. It's a good lake to fish.
Okay, so we have these pictures kind of going on the back screen. Can you kind of explain what tournament this was, or maybe what's going on here?
Okay, the picture that's up there now, I'm not really sure what year that is, but I do know that is the Sam Rayburn, the SFA Bucket Mouth Invitational that's held in December every year. That's what that photo is. He's just talking about, they're down on the water here. I really don't know. They were graduated and gone before I was here, so
right.
I really don't know much about this tournament.
All right, on this is Ryan and Andrew, is that correct?
Yes, at Lake Louisville, at the national championship. They were in second going into day 2, so they did a good job. That was a tough tournament. Me and my partner only weighed in 2 fish on the first day. It was tough. There was a lot of good fishermen, it's just a big lake.
Yeah.
And it was tough trying to figure out the fish.
All right, so if someone's interested then in joining the team, what are some ways that they can find out about it?
We're working on a website right now. I've been told by sports clubs here that it should be up and running just as soon as they get it all figured out. But the main deal is we have a Facebook page,
Okay.
SFA Bass Team. That's the quickest way to find out. There's contacts information on there, and also a Yahoo email account.
All right, so this is all the time we have for today. I want to thank Jared West for joining us. I would like to thank Jared West again for joining us today. If that has been an edition of Purple Pride, my name's Alyssa Tenorio, and thanks for joining us.